And I have a sound bite that I want to play for you. It's just, I'll do it real brief. But this was like one of my favorite songs. It's Ugandan music, actually, so I'll play it for you. It's very happy. Makes you want to dance.
Here, I'll play with you for this.
But I'm gonna go ahead. So the song is about washing you with the water, washing you with the blood, and there's some English at the end actually. But William was my friend Amanda's friend, so she had already met him, and he made sure that I got that audio clip because he is a music and a theater major, so he always had music with him. He had a Bluetooth speaker. So he always had music, and every time that song was playing, he noticed how much I liked it. So he made sure, through all my handicaps, that I was able to get that audio clip. So thanks to William for that. So this is Happy. Actually, her name is Happy, very appropriately, as she has this big smile, and she is holding a handmade doll. So Mary Levy actually made several dolls for me to take over there, and Amanda had wanted to take some toys for the kids, so she brought some soccer balls and some frisbees because those were hot items when she had been there a couple of years ago. And I also raided Kids Space and preschool when we were going through all of that clean out process. So there's a whole lot of stuff from our church over in Uganda, and the adults actually loved the little New Testaments, those little orange ones. I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah, I saw those. So they were going to be donated, I saw on the list. So I'm like, I'll donate them.
That's amazing.
So they were very happy to get those.
Let us know if you need more.
Yeah. So Uganda is called the Pearl of Africa. So it's actually very beautiful. I have been to Burkina Faso before, and it's very dry in Burkina Faso, which is in Western Africa. And I'll show you a map later, but Uganda is a very pretty place. It's very green and beautiful there. Okay. All right, so the reason I went to Uganda in the first place was actually because of a change of plans. So I had intended to go to Greece on this big vacation. I fell in love with Greece in about like the 6th grade, and I have wanted to go to Greece forever. So Chris made all the preparations. He went to the travel agent. It was like my big retirement gift, anniversary, birthday, and I was like super excited. So I have a slide of a library book here to show you how excited I was. I read like every book on Greece that the bar library had. I knew everything about architecture, which I have no interest in architecture at all, except that it was Greek. So then I was interested. So I knew the mythology, I knew the way they lived. I looked at the travel books. So it turned out that we were on the plane and we got delayed. By the time we would get to Atlanta, we would miss our flight. So we decided, I know, yes, Donna Jo, exactly. She's making sad face. It was a big sad face. So we decided we bought travel insurance. We'll get off the plane, we'll reschedule for next week or something, because we didn't want to get there late and miss a whole day of our vacation. So went to the travel agent, and it was booked for like through October, all the trips. So I was like deeply disappointed. So I was like, I am not unpacking my suitcase until I go somewhere. I don't even care. I just need to go somewhere. But the funny thing about that is that I'm not really a great traveler. I really don't like to travel. I was just super excited about this trip. I don't like flight delays. I don't like losing your baggage. So I'm really just I'd rather stay home and avoid all the hassle. But I know I'm spending a lot of time on this whole how I got there, but that's really the most important part of this story, is how I got there. Because I have, it's not bad anxiety issues, but I have this fear of the unknown. Like, I think that's pretty normal, but I'm not terribly adventurous per se, so it's not really something that I just jump into and do. So, saying that, the next day, I think it was, about 10 o'clock, my husband and Amanda had been corresponding by text before I got into this, but she texted me about 10 o'clock in the morning. I think it was the next day after we didn't go on our trip. And she was like, do you want to go to Uganda? And I'm like, yes, because I need to go somewhere. I'm not unpacking my suitcase until I go somewhere. So by 10 o'clock that night, I had a plane ticket to Uganda. So that was really, really fast. Usually, I don't do things like that. I have to research everything. So I was going within 3 weeks. I bought the ticket. 3 weeks later, we were leaving. So, there's a picture of a mosquito on there because yes, and in Greek, mosquito that's the actual gene of mosquito that carries malaria. So that's why I put this on here. So over the next 3 weeks that I had to prepare, of course I began to study because that's just what I do. And Uganda has a very high risk for malaria. And I had talked to a couple of people before in the past that had malaria, and they say it feels like you're going to die. So that is not something I was excited about actually experiencing for myself. So I did not want to have malaria. So that was one of those things that I began to prepare to prevent. And then the second thing that became my greatest fear, my second greatest fear, was being abducted. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but I started getting library books, and I found this fiction book about a white journalist. It was a fiction book. A white journalist that got abducted. So I'm like, why am I reading this book? Why am I doing this right now? So anyway, I got a little spun up about that. And the reason I put this photo here is because this is called a caravan, which is an Australian term, what they call it in Australia for a camper. So this is Irene Gleason's caravan. She's an Australian woman who moved to Uganda from Australia, and she lived there in like the 90s. And at that time, she was living in Kitgum. And at that time, Joseph Kony was the leader of the Liberation Resistance Army, and he was murdering millions of people and abducting children and turning them into child soldiers. So all of this was happening, and she moved there and she began to take care of these orphan children that had lost their families and things. So I'm going to talk some more about that later. And she wrote a book. Irene Gleason has a book called The Heart of a Lioness. So it's a good read. I recommend you read it. This wasn't something that was like in the media very much, but it was going on in the 90s, so not in the far recent past. But it was something that we didn't really know much about that was going on. So The Heart of a Lioness is her story. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's writing on that caravan. She wrote scriptures on the caravan as a way to encourage herself to gain strength. And she actually had her camper raided a couple of times with her in it. And she was delivered by crying out to God and using scripture and things like that. So it's an amazing story. All right, and this is the map of Uganda, and I'll just kind of quick tell you where we went and what we did, and then I'll go through a little bit more each place specifically. So Uganda is bordered on the west side by the Congo over there, and then up north is the South Sudan, and then on the east side we have Kenya, and then Tanzania to the south. And you'll notice that there's Lake Victoria, which is a huge lake, and that's why it's so green there, because they have that great water supply. And so we flew into Entebbe, which is a little bit south of Kampala. The capital is Kampala. If you can see Entebbe, it's a little bit south of that. So we flew in there, and then William, which was Amanda's friend from her YWAM training, she did YWAM training, and her field work was in Uganda. So that's where she met William, whose mother is Ugandan and his father is Kenyan. So he lives there, and he's YWAM staff. So he picked us up with Gad, a friend of his, and we went to Jinja, which was about a 2-hour drive from there. It was late at night, so we got in late. We drove to Jinja, which is, there's a YWAM base there as well. There's like 5 or 6 YWAM bases just in Uganda. So we stayed there for the night, and then the next day we went to, I was going to tell you the whole thing. Then we went to the island, to Lingira Island, which is where William's parents live, and they lead the YWAM base that's on the island. So we stayed there a couple of nights. Then we went up to Kitgum, which is way up north there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's way up north. So that was like an 8 or 9, probably more, hour trip in the SUV to drive up there. And then we stayed there several days, and then we went to National Park called Murchison Falls, and we had a safari. So we got to, see some animals and things like that. So that was our rest time. Okay, so Jinja is a YWAM base, and this little girl took to me right away. She gave me a great welcome. She just wanted me to hold her. She was one of the staff members' child there. And we took a little tour the next day after we spent the night, and this was a lovely view. So it's beautiful at the YWAM base. It's beautiful there. So that's just a photo of the base. Okay, so then we went to Lingira Island. We stayed there a couple days. So this boat that I'm standing in, it was the boat we took to Lingira Island, and it was not what I imagined that I was going to be in. It was like a huge canoe, basically is what it was. It had a little motor. So the island wasn't that far from Jinja, but it took us about 2 hours to get there just because the motor was small and the boat goes very slow. So to get in the boat was a very interesting process. So you hire some big burly men, and they take your bags, because we had a lot of bags, the two of us, because we had brought all this stuff. So we had big suitcases. So they walk into the water, and they put all your bags into the big canoe with the little motor on it. And then they come back and they carry you into the water and put you in the boat. And so that was pretty interesting. Very exciting stuff. So this is a different boat now. This is the YWAM boat that we took to church. So the church is about a 45-minute walk from the YWAM base. I forgot to tell you something earlier. Yeah, let me go back and tell you something. So during those 3 weeks when I had my plane ticket and I was getting ready to go, my friend Amanda started texting me like 1 week with one something and then something else. And so she was talking about mosquito tents. And I was like, mosquito tents. We need to take mosquito tents. And then water filter was the next thing. And then she came up with a portable shower. And I'm like, wait, what? What are we doing? Where are we going? So at that point I was getting, my travel anxiety. So I'm like, it's a good thing I didn't ask a whole lot of questions before I bought these tickets. So it was good I didn't, because I would have missed out on all this, perhaps, if I had decided, I'm not doing that. So this is the boat that we took to church. And we almost got to church before the propeller fell off in the water. When that happened, we just had to walk the rest of the way to church. So it was actually nice. I had worn my hiking dress that day, so it was good. It was all good. So this is a little video clip of worship on Sunday morning, and William's father is the pastor of this church. And they have very energetic worship. So just take a look here.
Listen while you worship.
Yeah, so Joanna's noticing the whistle, and I thought about that too. Like, why are they using the whistle? And they do that
More worship whistle.
the instrument they have is the drums. So it's like, and they are so energetic, so they just need a little something to like keep it going. Because that was one of their prayer requests. Actually, was more instruments. So they're like, we get tired. I'm like, I bet you do. So Amanda gave the message that morning, actually, and then I got to give my testimony. So I have a little clip of my testimony that Amanda recorded for me. So I was just talking about my perfectionism. So it's just a little clip. I think we have time. I'll play it. That's William's mother translating.
But I always felt like I wasn't doing a good job. I felt like I needed to do more all the time. When I was 30 years old, God showed me that I had a sin of independence. I was trying to do everything by myself. So I was so independent that I felt like I didn't need God.
Okay, were you guys able to hear what I was saying? Okay, so if you want to hear the rest of that testimony, I'll be happy to tell you that later. So, that is Amanda back there in the corner. All the kids were so excited about the necklaces and bracelets and things that she was handing out that she kind of got just squished back there in the corner. And then the girls like to have their picture taken, so we were taking a bunch of pictures. And the boys got Matchbox cars, so we took Matchbox cars for them, and they were loving those. So that's Amanda with a little girl during the service. She just came over to us and snuggled up. She snuggled up with Amanda for the service and just hung out. So that's some little bananas. They were in season while we were there. We got served a lot of bananas. So I literally did have bananas coming out of my ears. Good thing I like bananas. And that's just a picture of that little girl's hand in my hand there. Thought that was sweet. All right, and on the left side is our walk back from church, because the propeller was still in the water apparently at that point. So we walked 45 minutes back, which was actually wonderful. And it was so wonderful because I have a little audio clip of how we walked back.
Crocodile.
So he was playing the music.
Were there crocodiles in the water and alligators?
No alligators. It was the lake. Yeah.
My question is it like, did the propeller just basically fall in the water, or did it just...
So I don't know. I was not involved in any of the propeller fixing up.
I just wanted to know.
That's William in the red shirt there. That's William
I see
doing
that.
the dance. And then we've got William's mom. That's his mom. That was on the way to church. And then that picture in the bottom, that was when we arrived at the island. We had a huge welcoming committee. The whole village came out to see us, and they helped us with our luggage to take it to the base. So I was always like, who's got my bag? And is it going to the base or somewhere else? But yeah, we got everything, and it was very nice. A great welcome. And then we played the Jesus film. Amanda was able to get the projector. There's a special projector that you have to get to play the Jesus film that's like solar powered and the whole thing. And so some of her friends in the Congo needed it for the refugee camp, so she ordered it, and then we took it over in our luggage. And so while we had it, we played it for the kids on the island. So that was afterward. They were really happy and wired. So that was just a picture of after the Jesus film.
It's a great picture.
Yeah, it was a good
Really
It's very fun.
night vision.
So we stayed on the island a couple of nights, and then we went back to Jinja, and Gad picked us up in the car. We drove up to Kitgum, which is where the Irene Gleason Foundation is. So we stayed there for several days, and this little girl is one of the orphans, I guess we call her. that stays there. So there's an orphanage there. So she actually was not terribly sure about the two of us. And Amanda's like a magnet, a baby magnet. So, I mean, the kids just come to her. And this little one didn't really. She was kind of leery. So we had left the room, and then we noticed she followed us. And then eventually she let me pick her up. So, and that was pretty fun. Okay. And then we got to speak on the radio. There was a radio show at 5:30 in the morning, so we got to speak on the radio. And Amanda and her husband had done that before when they were there 2 years ago. So we got to do that 2 days. So the show was an hour, 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning. And so for the first half an hour, Amanda gave a message, and I got to do my testimony during that time. And then the next 30 minutes, people would call in, and then we would pray for them. And this radio station, there are like 1 million listeners that reaches all the way to the South Sudan border and to the Congolese border. So it was very exciting to be able to do that and to pray for people that called in. And so Amanda did an amazing job with her message. It seemed like she was reading a script. She was just so polished. I was just amazed. So it was really fun to watch her do that. And in the bottom corner, oh wait, I'm going to tell you one other thing. So the first day on the radio, I got to give my testimony. The second day on the radio, I got to talk about the Watoto Ugandan Children's Choir. So a couple of years ago, that choir came to Elizabethtown, and I got to see them. And I was talking to the listeners about how much they taught me. Like, those little kids were preaching on the stage, and at that point I was like not in a great place. I was kind of like unhappy just for stupid reasons, and they were just so full of life, and it was like, wow. And that just kind of showed me that I really have so much to be grateful for. And so I was able to share that with them, never thinking that, you know, I would actually get to go to Uganda and share that story with them. And in the bottom picture, we have Daniel. Down in the corner, Daniel went with us and preached the message the second day with us. And hopefully I'll have some time to talk about Daniel a little bit more later. All right, so that's Pastor Patrick. That was his radio show. He was actually one of Irene Gleason's orphan children. She raised him. He called her Mama Irene. That's what the kids called her. So he called her Mama Irene. And then that picture on the right is his baby. So he's got 4 kids, and that's his baby with Amanda there. And the other one is at the Irene Gleason Library, Community Library in Kitgum, the construction site. So they're building a library in that city after what that place has been through. So they have really come leaps and bounds. That building on the left side is the church that's on the Irene Gleason Foundation property. And in her book, she talks about like the start of this building and how it was built. And Pastor Patrick is the lead pastor of that church. And then on the right side, I've got a couple of couple more worship clips. There's a business school there. And so the students have a Bible study in the morning before their class. And we got to go and kind of lead the Bible study. So Amanda really led it, and I got to give my testimony again. And then the second day, I just kind of talked to them about being a student. Since I'm a professional student, I've been in school like all my life. So I love school, so God gave me some words about encouraging them as students. But what really struck me was how they worship again. So I just want to show you how they worship.
There's no one else like you. There is no.
Okay. So they're very energetic and enthusiastic. It was just so fun to be part of that. The couple that's standing between myself and Amanda, that's Pastor Alfred and his wife Josephine. So I had the most interesting conversation with Josephine. she happened to ask me if I knew who Joseph Kony was. And because I had been reading that crazy book, I was like, yes, I know who Joseph Kony is. And she shared with me that she was abducted when she was 13 years old. She went to the town of Kitgum to get some bread and milk, and she got abducted. And of course, the first thing they do is they beat them very badly. And then she said, I'm skinny, and I was skinny then, and you can see she's still skinny. And so because she was skinny, that equated with weakness. You won't make a good soldier, so she thought that they were going to kill her. So she thought that she's going to be burned alive in the building, which is often what happened. But I didn't quite understand exactly how she got rescued, because even though the official language is English, there's some language barrier still. So all I could understand was that he carried me on my back, and when he got tired, he carried me on his neck. So I think she was carried a very long way by someone, and then she ended up at the Irene Gleason Foundation. She's actually in the book. Pastor Alfred and her are in Irene Gleason's book that I read after I met them. Yeah, the book that I read.
Before you went?
No, I read it
you
after.
read it afterwards. Okay.
Yeah, that fiction novel was the one I read
the one
first.
you read before.
And then I read like the factual stuff after, and I was looking for their names in there. And I didn't see Pastor Patrick in the book, but I was afraid to ask him about his experience because you don't want to bring that up. But she brought it up. So I started asking her questions. I was like, how do you, like day to day, how do you get through like a trauma like that? And she's like, again, there was a little bit of a language barrier, but she heard a song about Jesus being her protector, I believe. And her brain just kind of latched into that. And she said it got her through that, and it keeps getting her through that. Wow. So that was just amazing. And they have like 4 or 5 kids, nice house. I mean, they're, pouring into their community. They're thriving citizens of their community, and they're just doing really, really well after. And she met her husband. He was also an orphan there too, or he was on staff there or something. So they met there. Okay, so now this was our fun time. So we drove through Murchison Falls and we saw some animals. So these are pictures that we took. So we were this close. Wow. We were this close. And we were just driving through. So I mean, if an elephant wanted to come and step on your car, then oh well. So that's how close we were. And there's a nice picture of William. I love that picture. He took a selfie with the giraffe. And what a great smile he's got. And then we've got William and Daniel's in the middle, and then Gad is in the white shirt there. So it's really funny about Gad because in their accent, when they said the word Gad, the name Gad, it sounds like God. And so we would often joke, because he was actually the one who was driving for us as well, that we were completely safe because God was at the wheel. And then Daniel there in the middle, he I got to know him pretty well because we were 3 across in the back seat, and I was in the middle. So it was me and Daniel and Amanda. And so Daniel was also a street boy. So he grew up on the street, and then I don't know exactly how he got adopted, but he has an adoptive family that he still is with. And it's kind of funny how he came to be traveling with us, because when we got back from the island to Jinja and we met Gad with the truck, Daniel was there, and we just thought he was coming to say hi to Amanda because she had met him from before. But he got in the car with us, and we thought we were dropping him off somewhere, but he just stayed with us the whole time. And he didn't have any bags with him. If only I could learn to travel that light. So yeah, it was nice. It was great to have him along. And then there's a water buffalo, and then that's a little monkey in the tree down there. That was the car that we were in. We were actually in a car at that point when we were driving through, because we had to switch vehicles. So yeah. elephant stompage was a little bit. I was a little worried.
It happened.
And that swimming pool, that beautiful swimming pool, is a swimming pool that was at the hotel. They are, I know, at this beautiful hotel in the national park. And so we did not stay there. But the pool was amazing and beautiful. All right, and there's some elephants up close and personal. Yeah. So at one point I heard Amanda say, "I would get going if I were you." And I'm like, oh. And the elephants are like coming our way.
That's funny.
So, Matt specifically asked me to share with you what God is showing me through going on trips and things like this. So these are the two main things. That's why I spend a lot of time at the beginning kind of sharing how I got to be there. But it's not easy for me to travel. It's way beyond my comfort level to do things like this. So first, I plan too much, I worry too much, and I don't trust enough. So God is really working on me trusting Him. Because He's never failed me, not ever, not once. I don't know why it's so hard. And the second, God is doing big things outside of my own little space, and I'm missing it when I want to be, when my most important thing is that I want to be comfortable and I want to be safe. So I'm missing out on things. So, in your prayers, if you think of Uganda, think of William and his parents. So William actually lives in Arua. He's on staff at the YWAM base in Arua, which is on the west side. Pray for his parents in the mission in Lingira Island. For Daniel, who lives in Jinja, and Gad, he lives in Jinja, and then Pastor Patrick and his family in the Mighty Fire FM radio station, which he does like amazing work with that radio station. And that's in Kitgum, and then Pastor Alfred and his family in Kitgum. And that's all I have for you.
Does anybody have any questions?
What's the verse? What verse have we going to do, Matt?
Does anybody have any questions for Melissa?
I do. Oh, but I don't want. Oh, so how did you know Amanda, and where is she from?
Amanda is from Clarksville. She lives in Clarksville, so we went to church together in Clarksville.
Clarksville, Tennessee.
Clarksville, Tennessee, at an Alliance church. So at that Alliance church, that was back. We went to that church for 6 years. So from 2006 to 2012. So I was the leader of the mission team in that church, and then I went to Mongolia with one team, and then Amanda went a couple years later with me and another lady to Mongolia, and then Amanda and I have been to Burkina Faso. We went together in 2014. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Clean up.
All right.